Darius, can you please enlighten us with your experience in this kind of protest and campaign against deportations within other communities? Like you said in the beginning that you protested when Iraqis and DR Congo and Ugandans been deported. Can you share your experience with us? That will give us kind of information.
I mean, I think one that I'd really like to talk about, I think is very interesting, was what happened with the Iraq deportations, and particularly they were deportations mainly of Kurdish people. And those actually stopped last June. The last one that they tried to do was 21st of June 2011, over a year ago. That flight, again, we blockaded, and with a lot of people blocking the road. We held up the bus for, I think, 6 or so hours, and all the time, at the same time, we were talking to the lawyers. They were telling us we're getting more and more injunctions, and eventually the court decided to stop the entire flight, and they ruled out that everyone was to be released because of the evidence of that there was still things going on, that there was still torture, there was still death, there was still war in areas of Iraq, including Kurdish areas and certainly in Baghdad. And because of that mounting evidence and the campaigning that was done, the British government had to stop sending people back. So I think it's very interesting.
Is it an isolated incident, or as a principle they stopped sending people back?
As a principle, there haven't been any flights to Iraq since then. So, yeah. In that time there have been 7 to Sri Lanka, but none to Iraq.
Darius, with your experience, successful experience with Iraqi deportation issue, do you think if there's sufficient amounts of pressure from the Tamil community and other communities against this deportation, do you think you can achieve the same here when they deport Tamils specifically to Sri Lanka?
Yes, I think we can. I think we can stop these charter flights of death, as we were calling them, of Tamils to Sri Lanka. I think that we have to compare the situation, what happened with the Iraq one and what's happening now. First of all, the Iraq one started because of the very strong evidence of what was happening to people being returned. So first of all, there was a lot of collection of evidence and legal cases from individuals which mounted up, and more evidence was being shown in the media, in the law courts. That happened in Iraq, and that's also now happening with Sri Lanka. We're seeing, and you saw in that clip, British national newspapers starting to cover the torture of people returned to Sri Lanka. There's more and more evidence, more and more reports, even by the organs of the British government, showing what happens. So the evidence is there. The things that aren't there yet with the Tamil flights, but were there first was, on the one hand, the Iraqi lawyers, the lawyers representing the Kurdish detainees were very organized. There was then one law firm that coordinated the whole campaign, called Immigration Advisory Service. They coordinated the whole campaign, made sure that all the people on the plane were represented, had all the same information. The lawyers were all working together as one, and that made the legal challenge very strong. Unfortunately, that law firm all its funding was cut by the government, and it's basically collapsed, I think deliberately attacked by the government. So at the moment, we don't have, with the Tamil cases, that kind of, there are lots of very good barristers and lawyers working on people, but they don't seem, I don't think personally, and not to criticize them, there's not enough coordination of what they're doing. So this is why people only get the challenges in right at the last minute, because they're not working together, sharing the information well enough. So that could make a real difference. The other thing that could make a real difference is the campaigning from the community. In the case of the Iraq flight, there was a very strong refugee association, the IFER, the International Federation of Iraqi Refugees, which has offices not only in Britain but in Sweden and all over the world, where Kurdish and Iraqi refugees are based, and campaigned very strongly. And they were very effective, very efficient, very organized. Again, not to criticize some very capable, very committed Tamil activists, but I don't see Tamils being organized in that way on this issue. Tamils obviously have many other concerns and focus a lot on what's happening, the conditions back in their country. but don't seem at the moment that the issues of what's happening to refugees hasn't been highlighted, hasn't been taken to people's heart in that way. And if that could happen, I think that would really could be very powerful.
Dennis, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you think this is purely a political issue, or it's a technical issue where the Home Office will deport or remove a person who doesn't have the merit in his application? Or it is more political than technical? How do you see it?
For me, it's very much a political issue.
Okay.
I think it's a political issue. On the one hand, I think this is part of a racist, neo-colonialist politics of the UK government, which always is responding to the right-wing tabloid newspapers. We must show, I mean, they deported 15,000 people in 12 months, from June 2011 to 2012. To show we are tough on immigration, we are enforcing our borders. So I think it's a political issue that's driving deportations from the British side. I think, as I say, it also works from the Sri Lankan side. It's used also as a weapon of fear, I think, for activists, for protesters in the UK, also can be deported back to Sri Lanka. So this stops people from making too much noise or talking about Tamil issues too loudly here. It also serves to legitimize the Rajapaksa regime in Sri Lanka, because we've seen very clearly what they're saying is, oh, we have human rights in this country, there's no problems, that's why people are deported here. There's no one being tortured, and the regime is playing lots of tricks to try and deny about the torture and what happens. So I think it's very much a political issue on both sides, both for the UK government and the Sri Lankan government. It works for both their agenda.
There is, apart from the lawyers being organized, working as a team or an organization, what the members of the community can do? Do you think the Tamil community members have a role to play in this issue? Absolutely,
and I think it's crucial. As I said before, I really think we can stop these. There's a lot of momentum building, a lot of more information. This last demonstration we did on Tuesday, which was, some Tamil people came, but we could have done with a lot more. We really need to be building these connections. It would be good to have lots of Tamil organizations being involved in these demonstrations, lots of Tamils working together with British people. I think we have a lot to help each other with, and even learn from each other and share with each other. UK citizens, Tamils, also other refugee groups too. I mean, I think, for example, we can learn a lot from other refugee communities that have been successful in struggles. And what I would like to do is to see us building a movement in which different organizations, Tamil organizations, our European-based organizations, other refugee organizations come together, meet together, organize protests, demonstrations, lobbying, whatever we can together, and keep up the pressure on the UK government. And I think we can do it, but we need to unite on this.
Darius, thank you so much for joining us. Do you have anything to say to the Tamil community in few lines, please?
Again, I would really like to see people coming out and making this an issue, people coming out to demonstrations, to actions. We can all do what we can. Not everyone has to chain themselves under a bus, but just to come to a demonstration, to organize a group, to write letters, whatever people can do. Let's all work on this issue, and I really believe we can stop these flights.
Okay, thank you.